Good morning, everyone. Happy Monday. I'm the Gray Strega, and I'm here to give you your daily collective read for today, Monday, November 25th, 2024. What do we have coming through in the cards for today? May I please have the first two cards in our 5-card spread. First two cards we are starting our day off with today are Temperance in its reversal and Six of Wands in its upright. This is a very active Mercury retrograde. I'm just going to tell you, I feel like this Mercury retrograde is going to hit a little bit different. Why are we seeing that this retrograde is going to hit a little bit different right now? Because a lot of the energy prior to coming into this Mercury retrograde has already felt very retrograde. It feels very oppositional. It feels like navigating discomfiture. What is discomfiture? Something in the place that it ought not be. But the ability to recognize and understand that is also how we remove obstacles. So a lot of this energy that I'm seeing that may be happening right now during this retrograde period may be that space or sense of working to remove energetic obstacles. This is positive. This is productive. I feel like there's a lot of energy right now and I want to describe this, like some of this frustration, right? Some of this aggravation, letting that work empower you, getting out of your own way, recognizing what you need to energetically change. There's an expediency to this, but I need to stress here, this is not giving me the energy of expedience that feels frustrated. This feels like that type of expedience that is propulsive. It feels like the type of energy that is feeling that sense of commitment in relationality to the direction that one is headed upon. And when you are focused on the direction you want to go in, it's not so much about the obstacle, it's about whatever it takes to get onto the other side. Now, for masculine and feminine energy right now, deep within divine union, this is leading to a lot of adaptability. And I want to say even now, there's a little bit of this shortness here. This is going to be the only thing I see that may be frustrating to navigate during this particular retrograde cycle, because all of that authenticity, if you will, right? All of that work of the Scorpio, like all the lessons coming out of Scorpio season into Sagittarius territory now, right? What does Scorpio want to do? Scorpio wants to investigate. Sagittarius wants to move. Sagittarius wants to take energetic action. So a lot of this, right? We see even now, this could be a lot of momentum as it relates to, I want to say, new projects, new opportunities, new breakthroughs, right? And some of those breakthroughs, they may be feeling like they're being amplified from a place of frustration. But that is also the beauty of a Mercury retrograde process. You're always going to hear, we're not going to speak badly towards them, because sometimes it's only in the moment that you identify an energetic hurdle. Are you able to figure out a solution, right? There's a lot of innovation that we're seeing here. Now, for masculine and feminine, I want to say the one thing I'll be conscientious of when I see energy like this as it relates to counterpart is maybe based or built upon how one handles energetic frustration, right? There's a lot of that productivity is what I'm seeing here. And some of that even now, it feels like finding productive ways of channeling some of that frustration is what a lot of the lessons of the energy deep within divine union is navigating right now. But I want to point this out. What is so beautiful about that work? You remember and recall that sensor space of holding place, not for the energy taking something personally for the self, but almost taking something personally on the part of the counterpart. This is some of the energy right now, working into adaptability, changing, not even necessarily due to the pathwork of the past of one's own self, but this is the integration of the pathwork of counterpart in one's own pathwork that almost allows for that sense of easement, because that what happens when we're able to learn from one another, it takes the burden of difficulty off of us, right? And so there's a lot of this energy here deep within divine union that's building on a lot of that sense of integration. And it feels very fast. So a lot of this could also have to do with like feeling that sense, but patience is the thing I see that's being tested right now. So be conscientious of that. And I say that specifically as we start to talk about the energy coming into divine union. Because for a lot of the energy coming into divine union, there's a bit of this, I want to say there's something, the inevitability is taking over. There's some energetic inevitability that is happening right now. And a little bit of that energetic inevitability that we see is occurring has to do in the realm or in the spaces of, and we describe this, right? We talked about how there was a lot of that Scorpio, that full moon in Taurus coming in during Scorpio season. It may have felt a little bit like a lead balloon, right? Because it's about the unavoidable truth, right? The unavoidable truth. And so we saw even now that there's some energy coming into divine union that is coming into the space of recognizing the truth of their own feelings. There's a little bit of that energy that's feeling that weight of a partnership, that density, right? And this is why we were talking about the fact that there may have been some energy that moved back into separation, not because of a lack of feeling, but almost because of too much of an energetic feeling. Because if you haven't done enough work processing, right? If you haven't done enough work healing the self, then that density may not feel like it's energetically welcomed. It may not feel like a gift. It may feel like the energy in separation that is working, and this is like working through what another's priorities are, right? Because what happens if someone comes into separation? Like I can see energy that was coming into separation because one person was like, this is heavy, this is serious, this is dense. Like what we're creating with between us, there's something here. But if someone's not ready for that work and they're moving into that place of avoidance, right? They're like, no. Like I can see that there's some energy in separation right now. They're going through the frustration of navigating another person's denial about density, about weight. And so this is bringing us to a lot of the energy in separation right now, because when I'm seeing the energy in separation, I'm seeing basically like two different modalities in terms of how that can play out. This is either the energy that was saying, yeah, I articulated to someone the weight of what it was between us, but they were in energetic denial of it because they recognized that force was going to change everything around them, right? It was going to change everything around them. So it's almost like that frustration of saying that their priorities were off, right? Whereas there could be some energy right now that feels like they moved away from someone because their fundamental principles were so difficult. And I told you, the problem with some of these separations right now has to do, I keep hearing, a refusal to hold something with the same amount of weight. And that can be really frustrating, right? Because that can almost lead to someone being like, you're going to separate for that, something so silly, and someone being like, yes, because what you think is light, I think is energetically heavy. Third card in our 5-card spread today, center card of our spread is Queen of Swords in its upright. Now, I want to stress this right now. We've got a lot of sword energy here. But so far, these are positive swords. These are the swords exactly where we want them to be. There's a lot of this like energetic correction that I see that's happening here. And it is having a different impact on masculine and feminine energy. Bearing in mind, this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. Now, for masculine, I see that a lot of the work in today has to potentially do with navigating through a feeling of frustration, right? For a lot of the masculine energy right now, and this is all to do, it's all to do with the Scorpio energy that like we were moving out of to a certain extent into Sagittarius, right? Because that ability, right, the scorpionic journey, being able to review the past, being able to look back at the past with that gift of insight, not wanting to create that sense of stagnation. But also I see even now that for a lot of the masculine energy, that ability of almost articulating and saying to oneself, not being held, I want to say, feeling the valuation point in the change of the self, that can sometimes make oneself frustrated at oneself. That's really hard to navigate. So I'm going to say this for all the masculine energy going through this, because I'm seeing that this is happening in a big way. If there is something about the past self that you are in a space or place of recognizing is no longer you, well, congratulations, right? Because that means that you've changed. It means that you've effectively come through a transformation process. And recognizing, and this is what we were talking about with some of that inner child healing, being able to introspect on the past self and say, I understand my reasons in moving a certain way, but they're not energetically excusable. Like, that is how we effectively heal. Because we can't necessarily change the past. We can change the present. And I see a lot of that energy right now in separation, almost going through that conversation with new feminine energetic counterpart. A lot of that sense of, I want to say, unpacking, if you will. Being able to speak towards to feminine in such a way. But then also, like, I want to say in such a way that I see even now, like, there's something about the masculine in separation that almost feels like they're protecting feminine in some way here by doing so. Because it's that, like, this is the masculine energy that's healed enough to recognize that the best way to energetically protect the feminine is coming into a space of healing within the self, right? Because it's only via confronting our own fears do we become energetically brave. It's only when we confront our own anxieties that we rise to the energetic challenge. So I see even now some of that masculine energy in separation, like articulating that journey to feminine. And again, not saying to feminine, I'm not doing this for you. I'm doing this for myself because I recognize that that is the best expression of care I can bring to you. And that's really beautiful to see here. While for feminine energy in separation, I feel like a lot of the feminine energy in separation right now is working through the space or place of holding very strong boundaries. Why do we see so much of the feminine energy working through holding boundaries right now in separation? Because we talked a lot about in our last reading, the feminine energy feeling the frustration and recognizing and identifying that we don't hold the same priorities. What one paid person may see as a gift, another may feel as paltry, right? Something that might be your highest, like, quality or characteristic. If it's not held to be precious, another person will, like, almost like de-amplify the gift that it is. So we see even now that there's a lot of this feminine energy in separation that is healing in a profound way, specifically and particularly because they're moving towards energetic connections that are helping the feminine energy see themselves clearly. And that's bittersweet, because if you move towards something in the present that builds into the clarity of recognizing one's own strength, well, then you look back on the past and anything that made you feel less strong, you may have some notes for. So there's a lot of, I want to say, these are difficult conversations that are happening right now in separation, but they're valuable and important. Because a lot of it almost says to me that it's energy that's connecting by articulating how one navigates and handles something that is frustrating or less than ideal. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, coming into divine union, this is a lot of that prioritization. And I want to say there's a little bit of this inevitability that's occurring right now in some of these partnerships, because there's energy here, I want to say, during that cycle of the Taurus full moon in Scorpio, that may have been a lot of kind of coming, like, articulating the what something means to someone, like what a relationship means, or what another person's value is to another person. So we see even now that some of that density, it's like they're saying to me, like, that density from, like, the Taurus full moon feels almost like the inevitability of a force kind of moving forward. So there may be a lot of energy right now, and I need to stress this. This may feel a little bit oppositional, because I see a lot of the masculine energy feeling that density and wanting to move things very quickly. And now we see the feminine. Now we see the feminines trying to slow something down, if you will. What's happened here? Because we're recognizing and identifying that these are the energies that in the process of doing so, they're learning to heal. The masculine feeling that depth of weight and not running from it, but running with it, letting that excitement or that love overtake them. That is how the masculine feels like they're healing. And again, moving into the unknown, like crossing into that territory. Like it may feel frightening to some of the masculine energy, but it also feels exhilarating, because when you're able to navigate something that feels like it's unknown, Scorpio energy, but you're able to bring the excitement of the unknown into it, Sagittarius, moving into Sagittarius, then there's almost like that sense that you don't want to lose your own momentum. But for feminine, this is feminine, like maybe potentially trying to like suddenly the feminine is not the eager one here. This is feminine like holding the brakes to a certain extent, because this is feminine saying that the recognition between emotionality and intentionality is being able to control the pace of something, right? So there could be a lot of conversations right now built around plans or timing that I see that are happening between masculine or feminine. The difficulty here is I see a lot of masculine trying to rush forward, a lot of feminine trying to like move with more intentionality. Deep within divine union right now, this has more to do with navigating through frustration. Navigating through frustration, it's a little bit harder for masculine, because I see even now, it has to do with like the past. It has to do with a lot of that. Like this is the Mercury retrograde, like recognizing the difference between a groove and a rut is what one feels the sense of moving into intentionally. So there could be a lot of conversations that are happening right now in relationality to comfortability points, but I feel like they're positive and productive, because a lot of that conversation that I'm seeing here is the amplification of recognizing and identifying like what those limitations are, what feels like it's helpful versus what feels like it requires a little bit of that like separation point. So there's thorny. Second two cards in our 5-card spread before we get clarification on these cards. Knight of Swords in its reversal, and our Chariot in its reversal. This is further amplification of the conversations that may be occurring right now and the differentiation of perception between masculine and feminine, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to, and timing. Do you see this? Are these two cards right now? Are these two cards right now being counterparts, but having different opinions on something, right? But here, what do we recognize and identify that occurs, right? When we are in healthy counterpart energy, that difference of opinion doesn't create a hurdle. It creates an ability to see an obstacle, right? Right, giving each other one's own perspective on something, it creates the shape of identifying the full expanse of what an energetic obstacle is. So we see even now that for a lot of the energy doing that, this could be a lot of conversation deep within divine union about one's own perspective, one's own experience, but all for the sake of getting a better understanding of the shape of how to navigate a difficult energetic situation. Right? How to work through that. It's not easy. This is what we talk about with Mercury retrograde stuff. This is a positive, because it's helping get a sense of identifying what the obstacle is, right? But it's frustrating in the process of doing that, because, obstacles are just annoying, right? While for masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union right now, this is a lot of the energy that we're seeing that's coming into divine union that is having conversations about what the future holds. And I feel that there may be something here that's a little topsy-turvy, because here we said something about that heaviness of the Taurus full moon in Scorpio, the identification of what something means. Masculine feeling that weight and depth, and potentially feeling like that was a maturation process, not running from the intensity of an energetic connection, not running away from the obligation that such a connection may bring with it, right? That's a lot of the masculine energy, healing the inner child wound in the process, because they're coming into that pathwork of responsibility. Feminine, seeing that momentum of the masculine, feeling that, and like almost like wanting to move forward with a lot of rapidity now, because masculine is feeling the weight of something and wanting to like move into that space of like, you know, the undeniability. But feminine, even here, building upon that lesson that the difference between emotionality, allowing one's own emotionality to guide oneself forward, and intentionality is the ability to control the energetic pace of something, right? And this isn't the feminine energy moving towards masculine being controlling. This is the feminine energy that's recognizing that sense of even saying that to themselves within the self, because this is a lot of the energy of the feminine that's trying to move very intentionally with masculine. So this could be, again, a lot of work in terms of finding a sweet spot as it relates to planning. But it may be frustrating today because we see that these counterparts are in different places. One says, let's move fast. What's the holdup? That masculine, feminine saying, you know, the difference between the difference between an emotional, the difference between an emotional surge and intentionality is consistency, right? Masculine and feminine energy in separation right now. This is a lot. This is energy that is encountering and finding each other, and this is the same lesson that masculine and feminine are learning right now. But it's bringing forth different qualities and characteristics in the counterpart energy. Why? Because we saw a lot of the feminine energy looking back at the past version of self and feeling like that weight of intentionality is such that the feminine is working very hard on building that clarity in relationality to what it is that they want with masculine. And so I see even now it's very difficult because I keep getting the same message for a lot of the feminine in separation, almost having to move slower than they would desire to recognize, like we just said, with the energy coming into divine union, the difference between a masculine just moving from a place of emotionality versus like showing a force of intention behind it. So that ability of articulating through, we see even now, this could be navigating, like triggering conversations in separation, doing a lot of unpacking in relationality to the past. And those conversations might not be easy because it says to me that a lot of those conversations are energies talking about what didn't work in the past. And this isn't the energy that's saying, yeah, I just didn't care about something from the past. This is a lot of the energy in separation that's done a deep amount of introspection on their own pathwork to identify the difference between what was within one's own self to change versus what was outside of oneself to control. And so that's why we see even now it's had a different effect. For feminine, that ability of recognizing that says, the feminine almost says, I have to create more boundaries. I create boundaries in not letting myself move into that space of accommodation in places that I know are not for me. For masculine, this is a lot of the masculine saying, I need to recognize that it's not my responsibility to fix everything. It's not my responsibility to have to be in a modality that I have to be completely like always in that space of guiding the path forward, right? Because some of this energy here is very like, it's not, they're looking at the past version of self and they're recognizing the pure intentions, right? The pure intentions of path work that may have created energetic blockages, right? That's difficult stuff. Continuing to get clarification between our Temperance card in its reversal in combination with our Six of Swords in its reversal. One card to clarify, please. We've got our 10 of Wands here. This is good. We've got like, I want to point this out, and I want you to pay attention to this because it's very important. A lot of these cards right now that we're seeing, they look like blockages, right? All of those cards that we just identified look like blockages. But why are we seeing here this 10 card popping up? because it's in the recognition of identifying and understanding that a lesson is such that not everything is meant to be gone through, but recognizing the quality and characteristic of an energetic hurdle itself can sometimes be like a completion point, because it's in the moment or modality of fully understanding like what one experienced, what those limitations were. I see a lot of energy right now in separation that has come to terms with their past such that there isn't necessarily a desire to return back towards something, but that reaffirmation that the pathwork is such that the future is ahead of you, not behind you, because this is the energy that sees how far they have come along the way. So even here, I think there's something really beautiful, because I see a lot of new energetic connections that are happening in separation, but they're being articulated and amplified by energy that is able to reinforce towards a new counterpart that point of like, this isn't energy trying to run back towards the past, that this is energy of new beginning, right? Now, masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union. This is a lot of energy that has potential. I want to say some of the energy coming into divine union right now has some history on it. You know, there may be some energy here that's been going, it feels like they've been going through a journey together. Why do we see that? Because this is not the energy that comes towards one another and says everything is easy, but it's becoming easier. Because if this is the energy that takes accountability, if this is the energy that recognizes that force of change, but doesn't try to externalize it, works to internalize it, there's a lot of this energy coming into divine union that feels a point of celebration as it relates to the ability to overcome obstacles. But those obstacles are the obstacles of the self. The obstacles are the obstacles of the self. And that's why we see even now, if this is a masculine feeling the force and the gravity of an energetic connection that they would have potentially run from, but now they're running towards. This is why this is a masculine almost feeling that sense of basically saying to oneself, you know, I'm no longer the person that I was. I couldn't go back to being that person because the person I am now has different priorities, looks for different things. For feminine energy right now, I'm seeing even now that for a lot of the feminine energy coming into divine union, that observational point, building into a pathwork with masculine, where now I see the masculine almost wanting to move, like moving into that space of trying to move faster, and feminine is trying to energetically slow something down to a certain extent. We see even now that a lot of that energy is having different ways of articulating the value and significance and importance of the energetic connection. And that's why we see, like even here, it feels argumentative, but it feels argumentative in a positive way. While for energy deep within the divine union frequency, a lot of this work deep within divine union frequency is building into working through energetic hurdles. And even here, you know, the frustration point that a lot of the energy within divine union is navigating is their own ability of doing it is such that it's not kind of wanting to do something for someone energetically, but building into that sense of doing it together. So I see even now that this could even be articulating or navigating connections outside of energetic connection, because that ability of recognizing and understanding blockages is such that the perspective of the counterpart is helpful. Because when you're able to have a different view, it gives you a clearer picture. Continuing to get clarification between our Six of Swords in its reversal and our Queen of Swords in its upright. One card to clarify, please. One card, please. Thank you. We love it. We've got here our Ace of Pentacles. This is practical. This is grounded. This is focusing on practical. This is focusing on tangible. This is a lot of the energy deep within divine union right now. Taking different approaches to find new solutions, right? Like that's the only thing I'm seeing here. Like there's a little bit of this energy deep within divine union that's recognizing their own energetic hurdles. But the beauty of doing that is when you're able to identify an energetic hurdle, you're able to also understand what you need to do to be able to come into a point of solution. So even here, there's a lot of, this is incredibly productive energy for a Mercury retrograde, right? Because it all says to me that a lot of that work is overcoming obstacles. Now, continuing to get clarification for the energy coming into divine union, this is why I see even now that for some of this energy right now, the ability to do this, the ability to work through a problem together, that in itself is the reward. This is a lot of that energy that is potentially looking at something and recognizing that their own ability of building together in a way, not building those walls, not moving away from one another when things get difficult, but moving closer to one another. This is why even now, like something about figuring out the timing of something positive, it feels like it feels argumentative, but it doesn't feel like a negative argument. It feels like a positive argument, because it's like positively arguing about doing something that you both want to do together is more about how you do it. While for a lot of this energy and separation, this is why I'm seeing a lot of this energy and separation feeling like they've completed some kind of energetic cycle. Because I've got two different modalities in separation right now. I've got energy that's been in separation for like a long cycle. And there's a modality of recognizing as they build forward with new energetic counterpart, how much they've changed to such an extent that they're looking at the past and saying, I could never go back somewhere because I'm no longer that person. My perspective is such that is so far in the past because I can't even identify to who I was at the time that something occurred, right? We also see here a lot of energy that may have recently come into separation. They're saying even now, potentially around that Taurus full moon, brought a lot of energy back into separation, because the energy is saying that came into separation during the Taurus full moon says they were getting out of fantasy land, right? That identification between the difference between feeling a passion for someone versus feeling the priority of what one holds to be true. I see a lot of that energy feeling like there's a fundamental moment there, because this is the energy saying, I would be able to go back into a partnership so long as I divorce myself from my truth, right? And so I see some of that energy there being like, that's why a lot of this energy is ready for new energetic connections, because the observation and understanding of what the limitation is what's propelling a lot of energy forward at this time. Continuing to get clarification between our Queen of Swords and our King of Swords. And I like this for the energy and separation right now, because these energies are very close to one another. And they're very much in the same space. They're not necessarily engaging in the same way, but that's not necessarily a negative. It's very introspective. One card to clarify, please. We've got here, look at this, our Eight of Pentacles in its reversal. Do you see we've got here right now on our board mostly swords and pentacles? What is the energy doing coming into separation right now? This is energy that's doing the messy stuff first. This is energy speaking about what did not work. This is energy like speaking towards what they did not like, what did not work, what another person's lack of priorities were, right? And so we see even now these are different conversations that are happening right now for the energy and separation. Bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what you feel most aligned to. For feminine, this feels more frustrating, because this is the feminine saying, I've learned how to have much stronger boundaries. This is the feminine almost saying to masculine, I can make anything work, but I'm not going to do that, because my ability of making something energetically work is a gift I give to someone whose intentions match mine, right? So this is a lot of the energy of the feminine coming into alignment, speaking towards the strength of appreciating that ability to make anything work is a gift, it's not a given. While for masculine energy right now, a lot of this work that we see is potentially articulated and based upon the masculine looking towards the feminine and staying to the feminine. Your ability of utilizing that pathwork of discernment is your energetic greatest strength. And for the masculine, this may be a lot of the masculine energy articulating to feminine and saying, my own ability of making something work. What is feminine saying to masculine right now? Your intrinsic value isn't in terms of what you bring forth, it's who you are. So do you see how these energies are working in different ways towards one another? But they're working upon the same lesson. And it has to do with what one puts one time, effort, and energy in. And both of these energies are doing that unpacking, because the gift of compassion they're giving to one another is not wanting to waste one another's time. Because when you're on a path of healing, time becomes precious, because you're holding yourself preciously. Continuing to get clarification for the energy coming into divine union. This is why there's a little bit of these timing issues that are happening right now for the energy coming into divine union. Because if there's something about the preciousness or the prioritization of a partnership, we see that it's leading the masculine to want to move very quickly. Feminine wants to slow down. It's the egg race. We see this with the egg race. What do you do when you have an egg and you're trying to move it across something? Masculine has that tendency of wanting to get there as fast as possible. Feminine wants to move more slowly. Feminine wants to be more careful with it, right? So we see even now a lot of that work maybe having to navigate argumentation in relationality, not in terms of what you want, but how you're going to do something. While for masculine and feminine energy, coming into divine union, or deep within divine union right now, a lot of this I'm seeing is navigating and overcoming obstacles. And a lot of that frustration in relationality to navigating and overcoming obstacles, I see even now the gift or the blessing of the perspective of the counterpart that gives one a different opinion or a different perspective in relationality to how one take a different approach that one takes. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Knight of Swords in its reversal in combination with our Chariot card in its reversal. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now. We like to see this. We've got our Nine of Cups in its upright. So these are, I have to describe this. I keep getting perspective, like the ability to overcome an obstacle by getting the full perspective of it. So even now, this could feel very frustrating for the energy deep within divine union. Why do we see that may be feeling frustrated to the energy deep within divine union? It's frustrating, but it's also energetically refreshing. Because this is the energy I'm seeing even now, that ability of doing so says that the first step in overcoming an obstacle is recognizing the obstacle. And so I see even now, there's a lot of that energy deep within divine union that is feeling to a certain extent and like giving each other like a point of you know, like a point of credit to a certain extent. Because that ability of doing so, being able to be in that Sagittarius energy, like, you know, taking new approaches, being experimental, recognizing the ability, you know, like trying, how many different ways can you run up a hill kind of thing? You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of that we're seeing here. While for masculine and feminine, because it allows for a point of being able to plan. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is, I want to say, coming into divine union. This is why I keep hearing that for a lot of the energy in divine union, this is a positive negative, because even if they may have different perspectives on something, it's not that they don't desire the same thing. It's just that modality of experiencing and expressing that even in the modality of having a different approach and being able to navigate it together, they're feeling the integration of building into an argumentation point that doesn't create separation. It feels more like a coming together. While for masculine and feminine energy that is in separation right now, this is why I see that there's so much energy in separation that may be on the cusp of a very profound new connection. And this isn't the energy that looks back on the past and says, yay, I'm so glad I'm away from something. This is the energy that says, I know who I am. I know what I want. I'm not energetically perfect, but I'm secure in what is within myself to change versus what is outside of myself to navigate. And it has brought forth different qualities and characteristics in the energy. For feminine, being a little bit more firm, being a little bit more, having to be a little bit more resistant than they would ideally desire to be. Like this is like the hard candy shell outside of the feminine that says like, my compassion is a gift. It's not an expectation. The masculine coming towards feminine in such a way of, again, amplifying and articulating to feminine that ability or that desire to be their authentic self. This is the masculine that's saying that ability of doing so is almost the masculine, like articulating upon their energetic fear. Because this is almost the masculine trying to introduce the feminine to their inner child in the process of coming into an energetic connection. So for masculine, this is pathwork of authenticity. For feminine, it's more pathwork of healthy energetic boundaries. Continuing to get clarification between our 10 of Wands in combination with our Ace of Pentacles in its upright. One card to clarify. Clarification coming through right now. Here's the Mercury retrograde, like screeching halt. But I need to stress this. This is why I'm saying that this particular Mercury retrograde, at least upon the entrance of it, it's building into a concept of new perspectives, right? Because I see even now, that's why I'm going to say it even now, there's going to be some new energetic connections that potentially come together during this retrograde. Because there are going to be energetic connections that come together in the recognition of what one wishes that one could change versus what one knows one can change, right? And I see even now it's bittersweet. Like, look at this bittersweetness here. Like, there's a lot of energy in separation that said, look, I had to walk away from something I didn't want to walk away from. But that doesn't mean that I'm moving in the wrong direction, right? When we care about things, it always creates that space of having to walk away from something that we don't necessarily desire to walk away from. But that understanding of why, look, the prioritization. This isn't energy in separation that feels like they're moving blindly. This is energy that feels like that destination is within the self. And that's the energy that says, I know what it is that I'm moving towards. I just haven't found it yet, right? That's not wandering aimlessly. That's moving with an integral direction. While for masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union, this is a lot of energy right now that may be putting a lot of points of contemplation in the past in terms of what they could not see before. Particularly for masculine energy, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. Because I just see that there's a lot of masculine energy right now confronting those pathworks of the past, wherein masculine may have allowed their anxiety or fear to move them further away from the thing that you desired instead of towards it, right? Bravery is not the direction you go in when you feel the confidence of moving in that direction. Bravery is the thing you do when you're terrified. And so we see even now that for a lot of masculine, I'm going to say this again, for masculine energy experiencing that, if you've got notes for that past version of self, forgive them. Heal them. Heal that part of yourself. Because you cannot be mad at yourself for something that you did at a point of fear. That is those instructive moments that you remind yourself and say, I know I can be braver now. I'm going to heal that experience by being the person that I should have been within it. So we see even now that's difficult work. This is what I talked about that Taurus energy in Scorpio, confronting the brutal truth of something, but letting it lead you into pathwork of integration. That is beautiful. And so we see even now that ability of masculine holding the weight and density of an energetic connection and saying, I'm not running from it, I'm running towards it. This is why I see even now some of the energy of masculine wanting to almost run ahead with it. And feminine is now in that space of saying, slow down. Slow down. Consistency is the heart of love. While from feminine energy, much the same right now. I can see a lot of the feminine energy building into that sense of recognizing the changes within masculine, but feminine has navigated and is healing wounds of masculine being too adaptable. This is a little bit difficult for feminine because I see even now this is the feminine holding forth and saying, if this is energetically real, we don't need to energetically rush it. We just need to be careful and patient with it. So we see that it's more about that argumentation on how you navigate something that is sensitive, which brings us to the energy deep within divine union, which is all about perspective. Helping one see something that another can't see, giving one's own opinion on it, giving one's own perspective. I see even now, this is why the energies are not necessarily in alignment in relationality to their own experience on something. But what happens when you take two different perspectives and you bring them together? You get a more enhanced picture, right? Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Ace of Pentacles in its upright in combination with our Eight of Pentacles in its reversal. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with our Sun card in its reversal. It's frustrating, right? It's profoundly frustrating when we do work of this nature, right? Because there's a lot, I want to say a lot of what we're seeing here, it's navigating through anxieties, it's navigating through doubts, it's navigating through fears, right? And for across all of the frequencies, I keep seeing that there's a desire to make something easier. There's a frustration point in how difficult things can be. And so I see like a lot of this work deep within divine union, that ability to hold space, not only for one's own, like this is how the energy is healing one another. Because I just keep seeing a lot of energy almost saying to counterpart, look, we're not supposed to be perfect. And then someone saying, but what about you? Being like, oh, that doesn't count for me. There's a lot of this path work as it relates to perfection here. You have to at least be as compassionate to yourself as you are to those around you. I know you don't want to hear that, but I'm just going to tell it to you right now. I know that you're resistant of it, but a lot of that work that we're seeing here, energy that's hard on themselves is usually is the amplification of caring. And so what I see is so difficult here is a lot of that ability to articulate upon the frustrations, upon the fears, upon one's own anxiety is allowing for a context wherein one can heal it. Now, for masculine and feminine energy that is coming into divine union right now, this is why I see even now, I see a lot of energy coming into divine union right now that feel absolutely overjoyed, but at the same time, absolutely terrified. Joy can be frightening. Joy can be absolutely frightening. Why? Because a lot of energy right now doing like that path work. Like when we heal trauma, the beauty of trauma is it's a comfort zone, right? Like trauma is something that we recognize because we know what to anticipate and expect. So when we heal from trauma, sometimes, again, we heal from trauma. I did not quote this, so it's not mine. We don't heal from trauma to handle more trauma. We heal from trauma so we can make space for joy. And so for a lot of that work, I see a lot of energy right now, feeling the density and the magnitude of what they're creating with another, and it brings up, it brings up all of those fears. It brings up all of those uncertainties because, what you do in that space of operating those anxieties, that is the power of, like, that is what you do with love. Like, when you love something, you're terrified all the time, You're like, you have to, but you build into that context of healing one's own anxiety and fear because you energetically surrender towards what you can't, like you when you build with that sense of intentionality, there's a lot of energy I just see that's healing in a profound way coming into a partnership, because this is the energy saying, I'm moving away from my comfort zone and it scares me beyond recognition because I can't predicate what I will find there. But if there's a lot of energy here that's healing from trauma in the context of that unknown or that uncertainty, like that is what the context is, right? You're moving forward into the unknown at the same time and recognizing and feeling the stabilization point. That is the amplification of the change, but also in experiencing the full range of emotions. I keep getting like a lot of energy getting their emotions back online because they're letting themselves just feel the breath of the experience of being of love. While for masculine and feminine energy right now that is in separation, a lot of this energy in separation, I'm just seeing that it's the acceptance of what one can change versus what one is experiencing. And even here, I feel like it's like this is energy that's like, there's frustration here in separation. There's a lot of this energy I'm seeing that's saying to one another as they're coming into new connections, I didn't expect to be here, right? Because a lot of that pathwork of integrity here, this is the energy that they know what it is that they're trying to find, right? This is energy almost amplifying and saying, I'm not just out here in separation looking for what's around. I know what it is that I'm trying to create with another. And when you're navigating that, it can feel frustrating because this is the energy that's saying, I don't want to, this is why I see a lot of that energy articulating upon the shape of what it is they want to create with a counterpart, because this is the energy saying better to have that disappointment sooner rather than later than to commit the greatest offense, which is what I'm seeing someone saying. The greatest offense, I hear both of these energies in separation saying this, would be to waste one another's time. Continuing to get clarification between our 8 of Pentacles in its reversal in combination with our 9 of Cups in its upright. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with our 5 of Swords in its reversal. So a lot of this, I have to stress this. There's something really powerful that's happening right now. And it has a lot to do, I think it has a lot to do with that Pluto energy moving into Aquarius as well. Because I see a lot of the energy in separation that is profoundly introspective upon the past, while also articulating a refusal or desire to return to it, right? This is the energy that's navigating the paradox of saying, in order to make sure that I don't accidentally move back into the past, I have to be very conscientious of it, right? So we see a lot of that work facing something, almost reopening, you know what I mean? A lot of that readdressing, and this is how the energy is recognizing the healing, because this is the energy that even in the process of coming together, they're talking a lot about what they faced in the past, because this is the energy that's being very conscientious in not wanting to have to repeat an energetic lesson that required them to move further away from the thing that they aspired and desired to create with counterpart. And a lot of that I see even now, a lot of that describing of building into something that is fundamental is requiring that ability to articulate upon what was not that. While for masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union right now, I just see that there's a lot of energy right now that's firmed up their own energetic commitment towards one another. And what's interesting about that is a lot of energy coming into that space saying, I can't deny my feelings. I'm not in a space, what's created between us is unavoidable, but that's because the energy, it feels like that sense of there's a surprise, there's a quality or element of surprise there, because this is the energy that is looking towards one another and saying, I've never felt this way. But when they say I've never felt this way, because what they're allowing themselves to say is, I never let myself feel this way. I never allowed myself the ability to come into that space. And for masculine, it feels very much like the masculine, moving in the direction of their fear, and then feeling that sense of trust that they're building with feminine in the process. For feminine, this is a lot of that feminine energy moving forward carefully, being conscientious, And a lot of that even now, like this is the argumentation point that I'm hearing, because I see masculine, like these are both energies that are healing, but masculine wants to move faster as a relationality to it, and feminine wants to move slower. How do you hold an egg? What do you do in an egg race? That's the argumentation that we're seeing here to a certain extent. While for masculine and feminine energy, deep within divine union, this is the energy that is having a different perspective on their own experience via the gift of the counterpart. And that ability of having a different perspective on something, that ability of seeing something in a different way. I see even now there's a little bit of this energy that is reopening their own past, because it's taking the energy of what they've recognized or learned in the present, and they're bringing it towards the past because they feel like they're healing something there, right? Again, this is the departure point of the Scorpio journey, which is like, take this with you. You might need it. Like you might need it somewhere down the line. Its quality or characteristic might change as you find yourself with it. So there's a little bit of that healing that we're seeing here. Continuing to get clarification between our Three of Wands in its reversal, and our Sun card in its reversal. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with, here we go. Look at this. I just want to point out, do you see this pathwork here? These all the sword energy today. But this is positive. This is productive sword energy. Why is this productive sword energy? Because it's the identification point of taking a different tactic that allows a different energetic outcome. For feminine, this is like a lot of this, like there's a lot of this like facing of the fears here today. This is a lot of feminine energy, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. Kind of like ripping off the Band-Aid, if you will. Right? Masculine, this is actually masculine taking a little bit of a softer approach to things, interestingly. Right? Both of these energies taking a page from one another's books emotionally to a certain extent, right? This is feminine, like borrowing a little bit of the masculine energetic confidence. This is masculine borrowing a little bit of that energetic empathy. Both of these energies, in a way, having that ability of doing so is creating new possibilities. Welcome to the retrograde, because I keep getting the messages. This is a very contemplative retrograde, right? It's the observation and the recognition of overcoming an obstacle, right? Recognizing what is a groove versus what is a rut. It's frustrating when you have to do that, right? Because it usually makes you like have to encounter things that you don't want to encounter, right? You can't solve an obstacle unless you encounter an obstacle, you know? While for masculine and feminine energy right now, coming into divine union, I keep hearing the message of the gift, the blessing to be able to argue like this. Like the blessing of being able to like argue over the details of something. You know, these are argumentation points, but these are energies that are not arguing over the fundamentals of a partnership. When you're able to like heal a connection to such an extent that you're not constantly arguing about the nature of a connection, it allows you to move that into more of a practical space. And so I see even now there's a lot of this energy that's almost like, I keep hearing like nesting arguments. Like these are arguments it's not like this is the energy that feels like silly and joyful having conversations of this nature, because this isn't the energy that is arguing about the fundamentals of partnership. They're arguing about the unfolding of it. They're arguing about what the shape like it's not about whether it will exist. It's about the smaller things of it, the details, you know, the beauty, like the miracle of being able to be in a space of being able to articulate upon details instead of the fundamental aspect of what a connection is. Because this is the energy I told you during that Taurus full moon that expanded upon and articulated how much something meant. It was the clarification of something towards another that allows for that sense of celebration. So even now, there's something about navigating the anxiety and fear, but it almost feels like it doesn't feel like the same type of energetic anxiety or fear, because it's not the energetic anxiety or fear of uncertainty. It's the energetic excitement and fear of expectation. While for energy right now in separation, I just see a lot of new connections that are forming. I see that there was some kind of like, there was some kind of fundamental shift that happened over the last 3 weeks, and looking back on something and saying, holding space for something, but also saying I can't go back there because I'm no longer that person. Or saying I understand that I value one thing and another person has a completely different thing they value. There's so much of this healing that I'm seeing that's occurring in that modality, because this is the energy that recognizes and understands what is within their power to change versus what is outside of their power to accept. So this is beautiful, because I told you, it's like the energy gaining their power back, and it's hard and it's heavy. But this is also the energy in separation that says I can do difficult things. Continuing to get clarification between our Sun card in its reversal in combination with our Five of Swords in its reversal. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with our Knight of Pentacles in its reversal. So even here, I just need to stress one thing that we're seeing that is very intriguing. Masculine and feminine, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. There's a lot of this work that I see in separation right now as it relates to navigating frustration. And this is the only thing, this is like the big thing that's happening with this particular retrograde energy. Because that space or that place of working through what is integral versus what one desires. I see like this is taking a little bit of work. For masculine, I feel like this is more frustrating because it feels more like a maturation process. It feels more like the masculine coming toward, what's interesting about this is they're saying it's a maturation process that feels more like the masculine returning to their childlike nature, but not childish, right? Childish demands things and wants things and doesn't understand why they can't be brought into fruition. Childlike is one where we are able to express from a place of authenticity. We let our armor down. And so I see a lot of that masculine energy right now in separation, building forth to feminine and coming towards feminine in a way that feels a little off for the masculine, because it feels like the masculine's like trying to remove the ego in the process. But what happens in that space where we feel like we don't have to operate in ego? It's because we are integral. It's because we don't feel like we need to hide some part of ourselves, because we've become comfortable with ourselves. So I see even now like there's a little bit of this energy right now of masculine coming towards feminine. There's a beautiful amount of authenticity here, but it's hard because I see even now like a little bit of that like rawness is almost like the masculine like navigating from a space of not worrying about energetic rejection, because this is masculine remembering that there is no rejection. There's just redirection. While for feminine, I see even now feminine working through the anxieties and fears of the past, having that sense of being very closed off to masculine. Because this is a lot of the feminine energy that's holding in that space of compassion, wherein their compassion is a gift. So we see even now like the difficulty that may be occurring during this retrograde cycle. And we always have to work on this, letting the past inform our path work, but not integrally change us. Change us for the better, right? What do we mean by that? Like that sense of, again, we worked through this, we talked about this, like a lot of the energy in separation, what one feels that one can change. This is energy that almost is finding oneself in separation having gone through a lot of difficult journeys of the past and saying, I'm not letting them change me. I'm letting them refine me. I'm letting them help me find myself, right? And this is an energy that feels like they're lost in that concept. It's that energy that feels that sense or that space of saying that there's an ability here to work towards their manifestation goals that they're doing presently. And that's why we almost see so much of this trepidation, because when you're already on the pathwork of building towards your path of purpose, you navigate energy coming towards you more conscientiously because you want to make sure that they value the same things that you yourself value. So there's a lot of delicacy here. And making sure of being able to articulate and navigate that, I want to say even something about that, it feels a little prickly, but there's a conscientiousness that is valuable and important there. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, coming into divine union, a little bit of that pickiness is what we're seeing here. Because the best way I can describe this is like, I feel like there's something about the deepening of an energetic connection here that occurred over the last few weeks that has more to do with like now feeling like you're having some kind of like egg race. And it has more to do with like, how does one hold the egg? That is the relationship. Masculine wants to rush forward with it. Masculine's like, I don't see any reason to delay. Feminine saying we should move more energetically carefully. So we see even now there's a struggle point around how to navigate something, but it feels like a point of joy because this is the energy that's having an argumentation on something that they both hold preciously. While for masculine and feminine energy that is deep within divine union, a lot of this work navigating deep within divine union, I see even now, these are the energies working as counterpart. This is the energy working as counterpart, because the beautiful aspect of that is when you're working as counterpart, you don't have to be everything for the self. You look towards the counterpart and say, what do you need? So even here, masculine feeling a little bit energetically overwhelmed as it relates to feeling working through stability right now. Okay? What's feminine doing? Stepping forward, trying to be of energetic assistance to masculine in that way. What does feminine need at this time? Feminine is feeling more energetically ferocious right now. Feminine is trying to tackle energetic problems. So you see even now that these are the energies that don't necessarily need to always be in lockstep, because it's like when one is feeling a deficit, the other one's able to come in and kind of, arrive in that way. That's the beauty of being in counterpart connection. And so a lot of that I see even now is the amplification of articulation of looking towards the counterpart, not just the journey of the self. Final card for today's spread is, we've got here our High Priestess in its upright. Love this, because we've been seeing this card. I got to just tell you, all during November, I feel like we were just getting the High Priestess in their reversal. But a lot of this, this is what happens when you trust the process. Right? You like the High Priestess is always just like, trust the process. Now, for masculine and feminine, and I mean, like, trusting the process, it's different energetically. Look at this. It's different for masculine and feminine energy right now. Feminine energy is feminine energy trusting the process and just sitting there and not doing anything. No, this is feminine energy that says, I trust the process because I'm a part of it, right? Like, this is a feminine energy that is putting a little bit more energetic force in things right now. Because this is, again, bearing in mind, this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. This is the energy of the feminine that is holding on towards their own confidence and letting a little bit of that confidence like guide them forward. Masculine having a little bit more of a frustration point right now, because something about this is requiring masculine to take a softer approach is what I'm getting than they typically would. Masculine not being as energetically hands-on. Masculine kind of like letting something, like, giving something, I'm getting here like a watch pot never boils kind of thing. Working towards something to a certain extent and stepping away from something. There's something about like letting something gestate here. I'm seeing that's happening for masculine. So both of these energies doing something in a way that they're stepping out of their comfort zone, but feeling that modality of alignment in the process. While for masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union, this is what I meant with the energetic like egg race to a certain extent, because I'm just seeing even now that alignment. There's some energy that's moved deeper into divine union by articulating what something means to one another. And there's some active changes that are occurring in the process of that. And now even the ability to like argue or fight about what that means doesn't take the meaning from it. It has more to do with like the arriving into a space where you can argue about the subtleties of something instead of the integrity of something in itself feels like an energetic gift. While for energy right now in separation, I'm just seeing that for a lot of the energy in separation right now, that sense of saying I am in separation, but I'm not lost. I'm in separation, but I know where I'm going. This is the energy that's healing because they're finding energetic counterparts like towards one another. And it's difficult because the masculine and feminine are doing different work in that regard. But at the same time, they feel like they're finding themselves in the process. For feminine, this is feminine coming towards masculine more in that sense of like energetic tenacity, being in that space of like almost like that authentic sense of self that doesn't feel as, flexible. Because this is the feminine saying, I want you to recognize that my ability to be energetically flexible is a gift. It's not intrinsic to who I am, right? We see even now, like that's a lot of the feminine that's like articulating who they are as they're building more authentic connections with masculine. While for masculine, I see that there's a lot of the masculine that's doing a lot of inner child healing in the process of coming towards feminine. Because this is the masculine saying, I want you to see me for who I am. Not for who, like not some kind of false sense of self. So there's something very beautiful that's happening in some of those energies in separation, because these are energies that are almost trying to allow one another to see each other's higher self in the process of coming towards each other into connection. Bottom of the deck on this reading today is 10 less than ideal circumstances. 10 of Pentacles in its reversal, right? I have to stress this right now. There's something even here. I just keep hearing high standards. Energy that's healing holds high standards. And for masculine and feminine energy in separation, I see even now that, and this is I need to point this out. This is why so much of this energy coming into new connections is articulating, because there's a difference. Okay, listen, there's a difference between being picky and knowing what it is you're looking for, right? That's the difference. That's what the difference when we look at some people are like, that person's too picky. Like, no, maybe that person's not picky. Maybe there's something that they're particularly seeking. So we see even now that this is a lot of the energy. There's a lot of energy in separation that is I'm hearing picky on purpose, because picky on purpose. Picky because they have a purpose. Not picky on purpose, not like intentionally picky, right? Not just trying to pick away at someone, but very energetically picky because they feel that they have a purpose. And when you're energetically picky on purpose, it's the pickiness because you know what your energetic purpose is and you don't want to move away from it, right? While for masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union, this is a lot of the energy that is taking, I see, this is the energy that feels like they're like, how am I moving into something stable where I have no idea what's going to happen? Like this is because if this is energy that's healing from trauma, this is the energy feeling like, I have no clue. I'm going into the unknown because I've never, like, because I'm moving away from what feels like it's comfortable. But if everything that was comfortable was chaotic, then when you move towards something that isn't energetically chaotic, it can feel like it creates chaos for you because it's so oppositional to what you've experienced from the past. So I see even now a lot of energy having very complicated feelings as they feel something stabilizing. While for masculine and feminine energy, deep within divine union, a lot of this has to do with energetic perspective. And I see even now, like, that sense or that space of masculine and feminine, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to, having a different perspective on something. I can see even now a little bit of that energy being like, you know, like, you know what I mean? Sometimes you look at someone, you're like, that's how you're seeing that, you know, but also leaving oneself adaptable to the fact that maybe another person's perspective has some purpose to it, right? That is our daily collective read for today. I want to thank you guys so much for being here and experiencing it with me. Just a reminder, if you would like to book a private reading with me, you can do so on my website, gracestrega.com. My private readings are done over video. And if you are a subscriber to my TikTok, you can take 10% off any of my services when you pay. Just mention your subscriber name at the point of payment. Please keep in mind, if you book a private reading with me, it is a 2-step process. You have to book the reading, you have to pay for the reading. Please make sure you do both if you'd like to have that reading. Also, a couple of updates before we get started on today's personal readings. First and foremost, thank you to everyone who attended my Chariot class earlier this month. Our next tarot class will be held on Wednesday, December 18th at 6 p.m. PST, 9 p.m. Eastern. We will be continuing our journey into the tarot with a focus on the Strength card. I am so excited to teach about this card. The Strength card is very interesting because it's one of the cards, one of the few cards in the deck whose locationality has changed over the course of time. So I'm very much looking forward to being able to study that with you. And now is the perfect time to become a part of our class program, because when you become a part of our class program, not only is your paid subscription to my Substack your ticket into each month's live classes, but you will also have access to the full repository of all of our previous classes. So now is the perfect time to join, because while I will give a recap on everything that we've studied thus far in each and every class, there's about 8 hours worth of material that comes as a part of your subscription that is there for you to receive when you're ready to receive it. You'll also have access to a one-on-one chat with me and the other students to ask any questions that you may have in relation to anything that we've studied or that we're currently learning. And if you become a founding member to my Substack, not only will you receive a discount on the full year's worth of classes, but you will also receive a complimentary one-on-one mentorship class with me, wherein I will assess where you are on your own personal tarot journey and give you the best insights in terms of how to utilize those classes to the best of your advantage going forward, as well as your own personal practice towards your tarot goals. One of the things I tried to do in these classes was make them accessible to the absolute novice tarot reader, as well as the seasoned reader. There's definitely something there for everyone. I want to thank you if you're just joining us there for the first time, and I look forward to seeing you at our next class. And if you are a subscriber here on my TikTok, I would encourage you to head over to our subscriber-only Discord channel, for there you will find a special coupon code in the perks section that will give you an additional discount on that Substack subscription. Even if you don't become a paid subscriber to my Substack, I would encourage you to follow me there to stay up to date on any new offerings, services. I post my weekly newsletter there, which will let you know about my in-person events as well as my online schedule. You'll also have access to our giveaway information. Speaking of giveaways, we are coming to the end of our November giveaway. If you would like to potentially win a free private tarot reading with me, simply head over to the link tree in my bio. There is a 2-minute travel survey there. Filling out that travel survey will grant you an entry into the giveaway, but If you would like to increase your chances of winning, go ahead and forward that survey to a friend, because when I pull the winner, I'll be gifting a reading not only to the person that wins, but also to the person that referred them to the giveaway. So thank you so much if you've already entered, and I wish you the best of luck of winning this month. Finally, I want to let you know that on top of my standard life path readings, I also offer mentorship classes. These classes are for my clients that are seeking a more personalized educational experience with me. I take a very limited number of students for this reason. Those classes can be purchased on an individual level or as a monthly class series. That is 4 45-minute reading classes, weekly or bi-weekly as your schedule permits, so that you can stay more consistent. Also, for my clients that are seeking more consistent weekly tarot support, I'm very happy to offer weekly tarot insight packages, which is a package of 4 30-minute readings, weekly or bi-weekly, as your schedule permits, so that you can stay more consistent on your own personal journey. I want to thank you guys so much for being here with me today and sharing in these messages, and we will do this again